You're a Delvian.
A priest.
I've heard of your kind's practices. Your appetites.
Such as?
I've heard of something known as the, fourth sensation.
I have experienced this. Not lately.
Zan's sensuality, well, it's an interesting subject, really, because in the first episode that we did, which was actually the third episode, we shot that first, so that it would appear that we knew what we were doing. The first episode that everyone saw was one that we shot, about a month or 3 weeks into production. Brian was director, as you know, of the first episode, and he did a magnificent job. Difficult for him, because we as actors didn't know our characters. It's very difficult for us to know our characters really well when there's lots that you don't know about. For example, I didn't know I was a plant in the beginning. The characters become richer and richer and richer as you go. We knew our characters to a certain extent, of course. And Brian was, because I have a tendency to stoop, and with hair you don't notice it so much because the hair is falling around me. But when you're bald, you could see my neck, stooping forward. And so he was worried that it looked a bit ungainly. So he would always say, stand straight, be regal, be priest-like, be confident, feel your center and be centered into the ground, be earthed, and be regal. But on the second hand, he said to me, but I want you to be very sensual and very cat-like and very fluid in your movements. And I don't know, I'm just not, or I wasn't at that stage, an experienced enough actor to be able to take those two bits of direction and blend them. So I wasn't actually able to do exactly what he wanted. I was able to do little bits. I was able to manipulate my voice so that it was lower and more pleasing, and that would help with, in my mind anyway, I suppose some kind of a sensual, motherly. My aim, in my mind, what I wanted to achieve was a kind, spiritual, loving, helpful doctor, priest, mother, nurturing, logical figure. And I kept thinking, it's taken her 800 years to work on her spiritual life and to evolve to where she is today. So I just thought, okay, she has to be more evolved in all of those ways than any human that there is on the planet. And of course, I kept looking at all the religious figures on the earth when I was doing the audition, trying to think, okay, what makes a priest look different? I mean, if you take the robes, if you put them all in jeans and a t-shirt, or all in, say long white robes, everybody, all the priests and non-priests, and you have a big lineup of 100 people, how do you tell who's a priest and who's not? Just by looking at their faces or something about them, how do you know? And I thought, you do know. And I had to think this way because in the audition I had to try and convince them that I was a priest, even though I was in, leather pants or whatever I was in, black pants and a t-shirt. I was a priest. And so that was part of my, researching into the character. And I looked at the Dalai Lama, I looked at the Pope, I looked at rabbis, I looked at, every kind of priest that I could remember, and also looked at photos, video footage of religious figures, Mother Teresa, etc. They all had the same thing in common. They all had this amazing energy and light and love coming out of their eyes. Doesn't matter what the rest of their faces were doing. They had this kindness and spirituality. It's like this warm and fuzzy feeling coming out of their eyes that most people don't have unless they're meditating constantly. And I thought, okay, well, I'd been meditating since I was 14, so I remembered that feeling in meditation, that warm and fuzzy, amazing wave of absolute pure love that you get when you're very, very deep in meditation, or prayer is the same thing. When you're in a very, very deep state of prayer, where you're asking your God or your healing angelic structures to heal you. It's the same sort of warm and fuzzy feeling. So I thought, okay, if I can get that warm and fuzzy feeling into my eyes, if I can fill myself up with that so much that it's pouring out of my eyes, then I can look the way the Dalai Lama does, the Pope, all these people who are full of divine, literally, you can literally see it with those people. You really can. If you look, you can really see there is a difference to the way they look, the shine in their eyes. And a lot of people go, oh, yeah, it's rubbish, and how could it be? It's energy. No, it's something, it's love. It's absolute love for everything, and it's a special kind of a love. Anyway, so I filled myself up with that. Now, in doing so, it brought a kind of I know this sounds weird, but in retrospect, I noticed that it brought a sort of a sensuality to the character. I didn't realise at the time, just that since then, I've had thousands and thousands of people write to me and say, oh, she's so sexy, she's so sensual. And over and over and over and over and over and over again, I heard the same word, sensual, sensual, sensual. I thought, how the hell am I doing this? I didn't know. I know that Brian wanted me to make the character sensual, but I didn't know that. I, honest to God, did not know that. I didn't do anything to make her sensual.
Delvian Pa'us such as myself are open to all manner of experience.
Are you saying what I think you're saying?
I'm not saying anything.
One of the most important thing that I was told in the whole show was by Rowan Woods. He's one of my all-time favourite directors, an award-winning director in Australia, a film director. A lot of our crews, Farscape crews, all of them, the whole crew, everybody, all the designers, they're all film people. That's why Farscape looked so amazing. And they wouldn't have been involved in the project if it wasn't for Brian Henson, the Jim Henson Company or the Jim Henson Company Creature Shop. No way. It's just... it was a very special production, but that's another story. Anyway, back to it. So Rowan Wood said to me, and he was kind of cryptic, like my mum, he said, and he wouldn't say much, but what he said always was incredibly important. Stillness is your friend, Virginia. I thought, I get it. Stillness is your friend. Because me, as Virginia, I move a lot, something's always ticking, and I'm always a nervous energy and moving my hands. I talk with my hands, and I'm always slouching, and I'm, very rarely still, except in meditation. And I had to have some coaching from various, not very many, just a few select coaching sessions throughout I think it was 2.5 years, whatever it was. And that was enough to really give me what I needed, the technique that I felt was missing. I think the stillness made her seem sensual, even though it wasn't on my mind. What was on my mind was to make her priest-like, motherly, maternal, caring, nurturing, and be filled with a divine energy that would shine through my eyes. And there was such a process to do that. It was intense meditation, which I managed to make into a short process that I would do just before the director said action. It's amazing how you can abridge something which is an extremely long process, to fill myself with this energy. It was great. And in fact, a lot of people could actually see it. I was really surprised because all I wanted them to do was just to believe that I was Zen. A lot of people would come up to me and say, we can see the energy that you're putting into her. I'd say, what energy? And they'd say, well, you're filling all your chakras with, you're bombarding yourself with all this really beautiful light, and it's coming out of you. I said, oh, you can see that? Oh, yes. In the process of filling myself with all of this energy and being maternal and kind and loving it, also, and lowering my voice and quietening it as much as I could and stilling myself, it made her this odd mix of sensual and maternal, but mothers aren't sexy. How, I don't know, it's just one of those things. It just happened.
You ever looked at a male before, huh? Oh, here you go.
Quite respectable for your age. Did you think you'd shock me? Is nudity a taboo in your culture? Are you ashamed of your bodies?
Yeah, we would be if we looked like you.
I doubt it.
She was also scary, isn't it? How about that? You know, being maternal and loving and, you know, and a priest, and being sensual and also being frightening. It's a very strange mix.
You've never seen that part of me. I thought I'd eradicated it forever.
Well, you resurrected it once to deal with Maldicides. Over.
No, it's not. I feel it inside me still. Now I have to rid myself of it again. And I don't know if I can do it, John.
Well, is there anything I can do to help? Oh, come on, there must be something. I mean, even if it's just being a good listener.
No one can help me.
She had multiple personalities, really. There were probably 3 or 4.
I'm sorry.
Don't you love backstories? It's great. She's the only Delvian in the history of Delvians who's able to access the dark side of herself, who's able to be aggressive and violent, and which is why she was chosen to be a political activist and to assassinate the evil dictator.
What are you doing? Avenging the lives you have ruined.
Because no other Delvian could assassinate. They couldn't be violent. It's not in their nature. They can't do it. It will kill them. Their eyes will go red and they'll die, which you saw in Rhapsody in Blue.
I am yours. Your spirit is raging.
Tarlene, I think that was her name, tried to extract. She told me that we were going to go into unity for one reason, but really she wanted to extract the thing that was in my psyche that enabled me to be, or Zan, to be violent. And she wanted that because she wanted to be violent. And eventually it made it go crazy.
We want the same thing, Zan.
No, we don't. You reach for the dark impulses I leave behind.
Zan tried to remove that part of her and just really be a spiritual entity. But it kept coming back every now and again.
Do it!
I spent nearly 17 cycles tortured by my own dark impulses.
And to look at her, you saw all of that. Just the beautiful makeup could be seen as the prettiest makeup you've ever seen. So pretty and delicate and hand-painted, like an orchid. It was based actually on the inside markings of an orchid, especially the, little pieces on the blaze. I like to call it the blaze because it's like a horse's blaze. So you could see it as extremely pretty. It could also be seen as sensual. There's something rather lithe about the makeup and the aerodynamic, the baldness of the head, and there's something sexy about that. But you could also look at the makeup as evil freak.
For the longest time, I feared physical demise because my spiritual essence was suspect. But now I know I'm worthy. Now I know the transgressions have melted from my soul. Now I know I shall meet my goddess and be accepted to her bosom.
To leave the show was a very difficult decision. It was my decision. A lot of people are mystified. They don't understand how could the Jim Henson Company pull the blue lady from Farscape. The blue face was used as almost kind of like the mascot of the show. It's very clever, actually, because when the show first came out and first was released, people would say, "Have you seen that show? The sci-fi show, the Jim Henson Company show? Oh, the one with the blue lady?" And it became the show with the blue lady. So the marketing department used the blue face. It was nothing to do with me. Some people would, they'd say, "Oh, did you think that you were the star of the show?" And it's absolutely not the case. In actual fact, it was used because the general public related to the show as the show with the blue lady. Anyway, so the general public, and the fans were wondering, well, she's the mascot of the show, so why remove her? It doesn't make any sense. And people used to say to me that Zan is like the center pin of the show. Everything sort of, she holds it together. She's the sanity and the mother figure, the healer and the mother. And it's right, yeah, it's true. Why should she go? And it was an extremely painful decision for me to make, and it was my decision to go. I was experiencing some problems about 3 months into shooting the first season, and I went to the doctor. He phoned me at work a week later, and he said, it's kind of funny, I mean, it's awful, but it's funny. He said, the lab just called me. It's about your test, your urine test. What is it that you're doing? Are you working in a pesticide factory? Because they've found so many chemicals in your urine that they can't quite figure out what you're doing. Are you working in a paint factory? What are you doing? And I said, well, I'm not working in a pesticide factory. However, there are some really spooky, freaky, I was thinking Scorpius and Pilot. And there are some bug-like creatures in the production, but no, I'm an actress and I'm working on a sci-fi show and I'm in blue prosthetic makeup. He went, what? Come and show me what you're doing. So I took a photograph and he said, oh my God, that's why you should leave this show immediately. I said, I can't do that. I've just started. I love the character. He said, but this is insane. Just, what are you putting into your body? It's just insanity. There's all these chemicals are going in. And I said, yeah, but I've got a strong body and it can deal with it. And he said, well, it can't at the moment. It's upsetting your kidneys and your bladder. So he gave me some directions as to what I should do because I don't like taking drugs. The doctor explained it to me and he said that the skin is the largest eliminatory organ of the body and it breathes and it works hand in hand with your kidneys. It's the same system. So if you block off, in my case I was blocking off a third of the torso with the liquid latex, it blocks it off, it seals it off so that the lymphatic system is not able to work. So it was determined that, yes, I needed time to recover. And they were great. The production, the Jim Henson Company and the production were great in giving me less of a workload. So if you notice in season, because most people don't realise any of this at all, this is the first time I've ever really talked about it officially like this. Most people noticed that in season 2 you saw less of Zan, and that's why. So what happens is, when you do this for a long period of time, for a film it's okay. You can really put your body through a lot of grief for 3 or 4 or 5 months, or even 6 months. You really can, and it'll bounce back. But year after year is a whole other story. Stress is not just worry. It's your body can be severely stressed because your organs are being overloaded and overworked. So my body was under horrendous stress. I never get sick. Honestly, I don't get sick. I've got one of those bodies where I don't get sick, ever. I'm like my father. That's why we look so young. We're freaks. We're superhuman freaks. We're really super strong Scandinavian stock. We've got lovely greasy skins and we'll be young forever and we don't get sick. But I was really falling apart, getting pretty much everything that went. My immune system was just a mess, constantly and so ill. And I just thought, the doctors that I was seeing at one of the hospitals near the studio were just saying, why are you doing this? I'd say, well, she's a beautiful character, but she's fictitious, Virginia. She's not real. Yeah, but she's real to me. No, but you are really damaging your health. Why would you want to damage your health for a job?
There is great pain in this for all of us, isn't there? Come, we'll face the pain together.
But all acting jobs are hard, and we love it. The harder it is, the more we love it. And I loved Zan with my entire being, and I didn't want to not be Zan. I loved her so much. It was like giving birth to a baby. She was my child. I know this sounds crazy, but I wasn't just an actor playing a role. It was me. I put everything I had, all the good things about me and spirituality, and amplified it all and put it into her. And I'm sure every actor does, and they all feel the same way, but there was just something about it, shaving off my hair and my eyebrows for years. I felt like the only way I could justify it, honestly, otherwise I would have run screaming, the only way that I could justify it was to tell myself that it was like going through a Buddhist priesthood, going through the initiation process where you have to shave your hair and eyebrows because you are removing any ego and sexuality from you, any vanity. And so even just doing that for years, removing vanity, you know? And don't forget that when I used to take the blue makeup off, it wasn't pretty underneath it. It was a red, rubbed, raw thing with no eyebrows and no hair. It was not pretty. It really wore me down. The whole thing just wore me down. And I would play Zan for the rest of my life if I didn't have to wear that makeup.
Peace of mind, peace of spirit, peace of soul. Goodbye, my love.
I said to my agent, look, get me out. You know, I've really learned a lot since then, and from now on it'll be me that will have direct communication with whoever it is that I need to, that needs to be told. Because I don't know to this day what he actually said. I have no idea. But what I said was, actually I managed to say to David Kemper later, I think it was David, it was someone, look, what I would really love, and my agent didn't pass this on, he was meant to, what I really want to do is to leave, but visit. It's like leave the main cast, but visit anything up to, and I just pulled a number out of the top of my head, it's like 6 times, right, to visit each season. Now, the problem with that, of course, is because Zan, it's seen in one of the episodes, because Zan's role in life, her aim, because I kept on saying to everybody, to the writers, what's my aim, what's my aim? They said, okay, your aim is to care for Moya and your family unit. Obviously these people have become my family, your mother. But you're also spiritually responsible and physically responsible for Moya. Because you remember Kahenu came in, and who is Moya's god, and spoke to me and gave me this heavy responsibility. So the only problem is, why, if Zan was given that heavy responsibility, why would she leave and only come back every now and again? See, and it was a logistical problem. But I think they handled it quite well. Obviously, there isn't necessarily anything, there isn't necessarily death in sci-fi, because they brought Aaron back to life. And Crichton's being without the top of his head. You can be dead and come back. And of course, Stark dies and coalesces and recoalesces. So we just presumed, I suppose, at the time that Zan was out there in a state of spiritual form. But because she's not human, who's to say that she can't come back? And of course, she did come back in the episode that Ben wrote, which was fabulous. What a masterpiece. Absolutely incredible. So she came back in that. But the plan was to keep on bringing her back. But I don't know what my agent said to them, but all I knew is at the time I was in fear, almost in fear of my health. I wasn't dying, but my health was being very severely affected by the makeup. Now, I'm the kind of person, I'm like Dad, I say nothing and just keep plodding on. And of course, people on the set, they didn't know what was wrong with me. They just thought I was perfectly fine. So they couldn't understand why I would want to go, because they didn't know. And I did tell them a few times, but I didn't fall down, and I wasn't frothing at the mouth, and I wasn't being carted away in ambulances, so therefore I must be fine. But, that's not an indication, by the way someone looks, it's not an indication of what's going on inside their bodies. And it's not an age consideration. I challenge anyone at any age to to have the same makeup, same hours, with a shaved head, shaved eyebrows. Gigi didn't go through the same problems with the makeup because she kept her hair and she wore a wig, so she was able to release sweat. So she didn't quite have her kidneys weren't working as hard, and over time they weren't being affected the same way that mine were. I was encapsulated, so there was no way I could release heat or sweat, anything. It stopped from there up. No function. The skin had no function whatsoever. You know, acting on anything is not a healthy or easy job. It never is, and you know that going into it, and that's half the sort of fun, to push yourself to the nth degree and find out where that wall is and how many of those walls that you can get over. I mean, I know now what my physical limits are. It was my decision to leave. In retrospect, you know, I am sad that it happened the way it did. You know, I wish now in retrospect that I do it differently now. If it was now, because I'm healthy and I can think straight now, I couldn't think straight. My mind was not working, you know, I was so tired. But if I do it now I would go directly to Brian and sit and talk with him and tell him what I felt and what I needed, and that I was getting sicker and sicker, and would there please be any possibility of maybe writing in that there was a sebation somewhere in Zan's past, in her family history. And because we know that, well, she's a plant, so we know that she evolves into a budding, she can bud and she can change, her spots can change. And we know that at one stage there was talk of planting her when she got sick, and she was going to be able to regenerate herself. So there's no, really with sci-fi, it's an open book. You can pretty much write whatever you want to invent, you know, invent whatever you want to invent with the characters. So why not invent that that she had a Sebacean relative, or maybe even, you know, like her grandmother was a Sebacean. Why not? You know, and maybe at a certain period in Zan's life she would start to change and eventually become, even to be a bald human, a bald Sebacean would have been. I really got tired of having no hair and no eyebrows because I looked like a freak and I had no life. I couldn't have a normal life. Everyone else was able to take their makeup off, their wigs and their makeup off, and be normal underneath, and their character would come off and be put aside, and then they could be themselves on the weekend and, you know, running around. But for me, I'd take the makeup off, and what was underneath was more freaky than the makeup itself. I do that because I always say to people, I look like a thumb. I look like a strange red thumb, you know, walking around. And I know that I have seen Sinead O'Connor and lots of incredibly beautiful bald girls. They always have a little bit of fuzz. Demi Moore, a little bit of fuzz, looks really pretty, but they all had their eyebrows. I mean, maybe if I could, you know, I'd be bald with eyebrows, I don't know. But I thought that to solve the problems all the way around so that the fans who were inundating me with mail and requests, please come back. We don't care if you're not blue, we just want your voice and your eyes and your head and you and the way you build Zan. We really just want her back. So I thought, you know, if it was today, I'd go straight to Brian. And I haven't even talked to him about it, you know. It's all done now, and you know. But I suppose one of these days I'll have a chat with him, or maybe he'll look at this, Brian, hopefully. But you know, if it was done now, I would go straight to him and talk to him and ask him if there would be a way that they could evolve Zan into being some kind of a Sebacean, so she could be Zan. Nothing would change except the way she looks. And keep me. I could even just grow short hair. At one stage I said to David Kemper, you know, why can't we just grow my hair? And you could bleach it white if you like, because all the other Delvian women have white hair. If I could have eyebrows and white hair, you know, but anyway. So there you go.
Each day infuses us with the knowledge we carry into tomorrow. I will be a Pa'u again, but I am not today.
Seems a shame. Waste all those years of training?
Hardly wasted. They were the best cycles of my life.